Okay, hello everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Summoned Realms Architecture and Video Game Podcast. And Joe, would you like to tell everybody what just happened?
We've basically just recorded almost, I don't know how, like 30 minutes or so of us
Yeah.
talking, and I forgot to hit record on OBS, so
Oh,
yippee. Anyway,
it's
so,
okay. Sometimes these things happen.
but
What
it's
what we'll
fine. It's
do? Yeah,
practice. It's
yeah.
practice.
What we'll do is we'll just kind of like make this maybe we won't like rush through or anything like that, but we did have a whole introduction and things like that. But what we'll just quickly say is we'll just kind of run over that again, Joe. I don't mind too much.
Yeah, I've
What
got
I'll say
until
to
9
you is
o'clock, so it's all good, mate, so don't worry about it.
nice,
So,
nice.
let's have a restart, shall we? Okay, so Adrian, you've been to Brazil, right?
Yes, I went. I went to Brazil near the end of November, and I went for 2 weeks and saw some beautiful things in Rio de Janeiro, in Sao Paulo, and I went to Florianopolis because I was fortunate enough to be invited to a wedding by a Brazilian
Lovely.
friend of mine
I
who
hope it went well.
may actually be listening to this episode if we're lucky. So
Nice.
hello to you, Eduardo, if you're out there. But otherwise, I will just say on the side of that is that I did a day where I toured quite a few very iconic modernist buildings in Brazil by a guy called Oscar Niemeyer, who's an
Lovely.
extremely famous Brazilian modernist designer. And I'm sure no doubt we'll either do an episode of that or not, but certainly I will be posting something relevant to Brazil on the channel quite shortly when it gets edited together. And I do hope we do a Brazil episode at some point.
And tell me, Adrian, what do we have in terms of audio related in terms of our podcast?
Well, you know what we should do? We should stop here and we'll wait for a second and we'll let the channel trailer and theme tune play. Whoa!
Yo, did that weird blue guy just steal our QR code?
And welcome back.
And welcome back, everybody. That you just saw was the channel trailer for the Summoned Realms podcast, but not only that, the theme tune, I'm sure you loved it, it was by a musician called Foghorn Fairies, and the song was Trapdoor. And we'll have something on the screen, or we'll have it in the description, or both, but that song and the artist can be found on Spotify.
Lovely.
And we know that their copyright situation is working pretty well, because when I posted the previous channel trailer video, it flagged for copyright and it's identified his song. And the cool thing about it is that theme tune, we do own the rights to use it as far as it being a theme tune and things like that. But what we were saying, and of course we lost the original recording, but we'll just kind of say very briefly, is that we've kind of been getting this trifecta of design going on to revive the
Yes.
Summoned Realms podcast, because I've been working hard on the graphic campaign and the trailer and the posting, and Joe, you've been working very hard on getting the sort of actual
Nice visuals going
graphical,
and whatnot, yeah.
the visual layouts on the stream,
Which
but then
we
also,
don't know if they are going to be on this episode yet, because we're still kind of trying to make sure it works and whatnot. But when we do get to it actually being you will see it, there will be a massive change in how this podcast looks. So yeah.
It may come in this episode, it may not. We don't know necessarily. We're still working things out. But the final part of the trifecta, of the Triforce, as it were, is that Dave absolutely came through. That's Foghorn Fairies, my friend Dave Colthup. He absolutely came through with this wonderful theme tune, which was inspired by like Anna Managuchi and other kind of like chiptune punk kind of music. And I just think he absolutely blew it out the water.
It is an amazing track, and it fits well in terms of our realm, so to say. Whoa!
Yes, our realm. Ooh, very good, very good. It fits our vibe very strongly, and we highly encourage people to go check out that song on Spotify. It might be available at other places. I don't necessarily know yet.
So tell me, Adrian, there was something that we missed out on the revitalize of our podcast, wasn't there? Was an introduction about who we are.
Yes, that's right, Joe. I was editing the first episode, and I realised that it was a good introduction. It was great. I really enjoyed listening back to it while double checking over it. But we did everything except actually say our names and like our qualifications and things like that. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and I'll say, hey everybody, my name's Adrian Finn. I'm a qualified architectural designer with a bachelor's and master's in architecture. I work as a planning officer right now, but most of all I just love getting deep into the kind of culture of architecture, and also I freaking love video games, so that's what made this podcast about, kind of bringing the worlds or the realms of architecture and video games together. Sometimes looking at them separately, sometimes bringing them together, and that's basically, what I'm here for. So do you want to go ahead, Joe?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Tristan Bully. I've been a 3D asset creator for 13 years now. Well, yeah, 12, 13 years about. Started in college, and I haven't worked for any like AAA companies or many indie companies, but I've been working alongside a lot of indie groups that have been developing mods or indie games and such, for free, because at the moment I don't have the I would say the qualifications to do the actual paid work, but I do love it. I'm a massive enthusiast of research into games development as well, such as like taking a look about how a game has been developed over time and how it changes. Obviously linked to the Beta Hunt channel, which is under the Summer Rounds umbrella, so to say, which we will be revitalizing soon as well as a secondary project. And yeah, like I design interior props, weapons, buildings, street lights, desks, you name it. If you want it, I'll create it for you if I can.
Nice. That's very cool, and good point to point out the Beta Hunt, because hey, as things move forward with this channel, then we can work out how we can bring those things together and integrate them and things like that. So yeah, we'll absolutely get into that another time, I suppose. But I think with those introductions and mentioning the theme tune and things like that, I think we could probably skip the part where we talked about the Christmas stuff, unless you wanna say what games you've been playing.
All I will say is I think Christmas kind of puts an effect on people where they play certain games at Christmas. And for me, one of the games I've been playing a lot recently, as of late, is Garry's Mod. I've been playing Garry's Mod since 2010, and every Christmas I will come back to it. I'll hop on a Dark RP server, I'll hop on a roleplay server, and I'll play it for weeks on end, and I'll be like, right, that's it, and then come back to it next year.
Nice, that's cool, that's really cool.
But no, I've been playing a bit of Ark Raiders, great extraction shooter. I've been playing Tarkov again because of the 1.0 release. It's okay, not great, but it's alright. I've been avoiding Black Ops 7 because, well, that's a game for another episode, but what a bunch of dog shit that is. But yeah, and also a game that we were saying before I realised that we weren't recording was a game on the PlayStation 2 that I do play once every year or so, or I do tend to go through it, is Gladiator Road to Freedom, which is or Coliseum Road to Freedom, something like that. It's a gladiator game where you start off as a nobody and then you make your way up, paying back your debt to the person who bought you. In the Roman terms, obviously, gladiator combat was massive back then, and you start off in small little tiny arenas and you make your way up to the actual Colosseum and you fight animals and other gladiators, and there's different upgrades and armor and weapons of that time, and it's a great game. And I think the company that made it I think they have been known for making other games. I'm not quite sure myself, as I've never put any research into the company. But fuck, it's a great game to play, and I'd love to show it off sometime because it is a solid game to play.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. I feel like I would say when I think about that, one, it sounds very intense, having like a proper arena gladiator
Yeah.
combat, and I think it does sound very cool, and I'd love to. Who knows? Maybe we could even stream it one day.
Definitely,
But
yeah.
another thing, yeah, that'd be cool. But I also think another thing is that like gladiatorial style combat or arena style combat in video games these days seems very much to be the kind of thing where, like, I don't know, you might be in like a game like The Witcher or something like that, where you're running through normal kind of like open RPG things, and then suddenly you're put into a kind of like subplot or
Yeah.
plot quest where then you've got an arena style fight. So it's actually, to me, it's very refreshing and interesting to hear about something which is dedicated to that arena kind of
It's
combat
also
industry.
it's also very, very uncommon that you have gladiator based, Roman based games. Like, I know there's a couple on the PS2 that the one I'm just mentioning about, but there's also another game where you play as two characters, and one of the characters you play as is a gladiator, and it's also a very good gladiatorial combat game as well. It's got a bit of like stealth and whatnot, because I think it's like at the fall of Rome, so when Caesar gets assassinated and stuff like that. So it's very cool, but like, yeah, I think, to be honest, I think Roman combat or gladiator combat is very much heavily slept on, and it's great to kind of go back to it when you feel like it, because it's such a refreshing sort of game to play. But regardless of that, we've got something huge to talk about on this episode, and we were talking about it. So what
Yeah.
we've got in today's episode is the massive controversy, maybe scandalous, maybe a bit silly, is what's going on in Rockstar Games right now in terms of GTA 6, a potential union, and also the firings of some employees due to a certain reason. So what I'm going to do, Adrian,
Scandalous.
is I'm going to go through the timeline, and then we'll kind of, once we've gone through the timeline, we'll then pick out on certain subjects or topics of that timeline, and then we'll discuss it. So what happened in late 2025 or early 2022 to late 2025, there was initial organisation of employees at various Rockstar studios, particularly in the UK, reportedly from a private chat group on Discord, to discuss workplace issues and unionisation. It gained traction and a lot of members. And then in October of 2025, we then had 31 UK-based employees across multiple offices, fired for gross misconduct. Now, the reason why they were fired was because there was leaks of information, and I think anything to do with, an uproar or disapproval or negative was probably brought into that Discord chat, which...
Well, I mean, at the very least, that's what they've got written down as
Yeah.
the reason for dismissal, and that's where the controversy starts to come in here, isn't it? So,
And now the union that has been formed alleges that Rockstar is union busting, the union being the IWGB. And then in Rockstar's defense of early 2025, the reason why they were fired was because they were distributing and discussing confidential information in a public forum, aka Discord. Now, we mentioned before we realised we weren't recording, is that even if you have a private Discord and it's for invite only, people can still be invited to that Discord, and they could leave if they want to. Like, there's no obligation for you to stay, so you could then leave with that information that you sought out or you've seen on that Discord, and then you could spread that, that information or whatever it is there. And if they are Rockstar employees developing GTA 6, then it could be the fact that there was GTA 6 material that was released onto that Discord, which would have broken NDA rules and guidelines, because that's just how it is in the games industry. If you're in a AAA company and you sign an NDA, you make sure you stick to that NDA and you don't release anything, but with people having negative feelings about the company they're working for, I can imagine it probably did happen. Then in mid-November 2025, there was legal action and internal support. Over 200 current Rockstar staff have signed a letter delivered to management demanding the reinstatement of their fired colleagues. The trade union was alleging that victimization and blacklisting was happening. And then this is where it gets real deep, as we were talking about earlier. So a local MP brought the matter up in the UK House of Commons when it was the time for questioning Keir Starmer and whatnot. And Keir Starmer said it's deeply concerning and he'll look into the dismissals and the alleged union busting. And now there's ongoing disputes between the IWGP and Rockstar. So it's a bit of a concerning situation because it's in very deep, murky waters because you don't know what they've released onto that Discord group chat. You don't know what's been said. It could be nothing. It could be something massive. But what has caused a bit of a shift in Rockstar is that a day, I think it was something like a day after the Rockstar employees got fired, GTA6 was then delayed to November of 2026 instead of it being released in the middle of next year.
This is probably because this is the thing, is that this is probably the largest outside of the situation outcome that we've seen, really, is the fact that this game, which is so hugely anticipated, is being delayed that far. It's hugely it's such a low, well, not a low blow in the sense that it's scummy, but it's such a blow to the customers and the audience.
Yeah,
and
we've been waiting on
GTA
6 for since GTA 5 came out, right? I know obviously Red Dead Redemption 2 came out in 2018, a fair few years after GTA 5 was released, but we've been waiting 10 years.
Well, you were saying that when you said you used to work at Tesco's and you took photos of when the first copies of GTA 5
yeah, literally,
were
I
on the
remember
shelf.
I had my old shitty little Android phone and I came into work one day and I came into the warehouse and I saw this blue crate and I looked inside and there was all these fresh, lovely Xbox 360 and PS3 copies of GTA 5, and I just looked at it and went, wow, that's really cool. Took a picture of it and got on with my day. But no, honestly, and that was a long time ago. That was 12 years ago when I saw GTA 5 get released in store, and just to see that we're still waiting on the next GTA, title 12 years later or so.
Yeah, 12 years, longer than a decade.
Yeah.
And so much has changed between now and amount of
the
time.
thing is, right, is I can imagine in terms of giving the Rockstar employees a bit of give on this, is that when you're developing such a huge game like GTA 6 for such a long time, you're gonna get frustrated, you're gonna get tired, you're gonna get worn down with it because it's 12 years of non-stop work, and if you've been working in that company for those 12 years, you're kind of just wanting it to get released so you can just kind of get on with the next thing you want to get on with, right? So I can imagine there's a lot of internal disputes in terms of when's this going to happen, when's that going to happen, and no wonder that a union has formed because of this. But then here's the thing, and this is what we were discussing before we even started recording, or when we really got into the episode, was that if they have been releasing confidential information on a public, well, not a public Discord, but on a Discord where everyone can see it, and what you're releasing onto that Discord or public forum is confidential under NDA guidelines, then they're breaking NDA guidelines, right? So for them to then, complain about being fired after being caught out, if that is the case, that is. I'm not saying that is, because we don't entirely know yet what's been leaked or what's been released. But for people to then kind of, kind of fight back and go like, oh wow, you're union busting, you're victimizing, you're blacklisting, whatever. But it's kind of like, if you were a CEO of a company that was developing a very highly sought after video game that you spent a lot of fucking money into. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, I can imagine they spent probably a fair amount of money on GTA 6 because it's a huge game. So I could imagine that if you're a director or a CEO or whatever and you see people releasing shit, then you're going to want to sort after actions. And the actions would most likely be either disciplinaries or firings, because that's just how it is in the games industry. That's how it is in the world. It's like if you work for retail or if you work for any sort of company that does any sort of job, if you're breaking the guidelines and the rules and the policies, your ass is going to get smacked up. Like, it will.
And see, this is the thing is, I mean, first of all, before we go ahead, as you were already saying, we are very much on the outside looking into this, so we don't know the full conclusions. And I think we can get into some speculation later.
Yeah.
But even just on what you're saying about the just the scale and the importance of the NDA, it's like we just have to step back and understand, as we've said, this game has been in some way in development or anticipation for 12 years. It's going to be bloody huger than the moon landing for many people at this stage. It's like it's getting memed about so hard. And what happens is a little bit like when we had our prototype podcast and we talked about like Half-Life 2 and we talked about like the beta leak, is what can happen is when certain information, especially on video games, like amongst other kinds of media, if certain information gets out too early to people and too much information gets out there, it seriously compromises things like the marketing campaign or like the investments. And then if it affects seriously how the game is going to be developed from there, in case people like sort of thieve ideas from the IP or something, what is it going to do to the release dates? What is it going to do to kind of building up the hype in order to market it properly? It can be a serious issue in so many ways. And I think what I want to kind of come back to, though, is really asking, like, and you might have a simple answer to this, Joe. Maybe it's simpler than I would realize. But for instance, there was some Pokemon leaks that were pretty bad. And I remember like on the Pokemon board of 4chan, like it was completely awash with like all of these posts about the leaks. And I'm thinking that if the Discord server really did have a leak of GTA 6 stuff, then why are we not finding like a RAR file full of it, or why is there not a torrent
well
file
that
full of
is
this?
a
What's
good
that all
question.
about?
Yeah, so I wouldn't know myself, but the thing is, it's quite interesting that we mention about like leaked stuff from GTA 6, because you go onto like the archive.org, where they archive like PlayStation magazines and like discs and software and stuff like that. There's been archived streams, like development streams of GTA 6 that I've seen. Now, so but that's from fucking years ago. Like we're talking like, I mean, I don't know when the stream was, but I remember seeing it last year, and I think it was something like, I don't know, like 2017, 2018, something like that. Like, so there is leaked stuff already. So it kind of makes you wonder what has been leaked out onto that Discord that's made Rockstar go around and go, well, fuck, we got to do something about this. And what they've done is they've fired people because of it. So it's got to be something fucking crucial.
Well, here's what's interesting, right, is I would actually kind of push back on that, because if you kind of look into this really deeply, you've got this situation where you've got Rockstar are alleging leaks of information, and that is why they're firing like the 30 or 31 people.
Yeah.
And then you've got the union saying that it's a blatant sense of union busting. And if they're saying it's blatantly union busting, they're either ignoring anything to do with the leaks, or like, what I'm trying to say is like, is someone lying here? Because also what I would say is, when it comes to like criminal law and things like that, imagine like you could be charged with, let's say, carrying a dangerous weapon. But the thing is that if you were just walking around with that dangerous weapon, you had no intent to hurt anybody, nobody got hurt, no one got like, whatever, then the question is like,
did any harm come out of it? Well, the law might not necessarily care. The law would just go, look, you were walking around with a dangerous weapon. So in a similar way, we could be in a situation where on Discord, these people were sharing sensitive information, and it might have even just been like a little bit of information. It might have been like, oh, I was working on this character and they told me this, and maybe we weren't meant to know the character, and who knows, like, so maybe it's not like a big chunk of like literal like 3D files or soundtracks or whatever. It could just be that the GTA 6 Rockstar like lawyers have combed through the Discord that they've got a hold of and then selected for information which could constitute a leak if it got out. And maybe it never got out, but that is enough for Rockstar's lawyers to go, hey, they've been attempting to leak things. And what if it was like two people who like said something, but then there's like 30 people in that subgroup on Discord, and they're all made responsible for it. And I mean, we don't know if that's true. This is pure speculation. But what, I mean, if we're not seeing like a torrent of information on GTA 6 that we can just click on and look at, then what is this leak? We don't seem to have an answer. We don't know.
But the thing is, like, and this is where I'm going to be quite honest in my opinion. Like, I've been playing GTA 5 online since it first released. I played on the 360, then on the PlayStation 3, and then when I finally got on PC, I've been playing it a lot with family. And the development for GTA 5 still, online especially, is still massive. Like, they've just released a new update for mansions and stuff like that. They've brought back one of the storyline characters, Michael DeSanta. He's the main protag in that new add-on DLC, I guess you could say, for online. So they make a lot of money from shark cards as well, which is their in-game, like, purchasing for, like, currency and whatnot. You pay money and then you get currency with your shark cards. So, and they're also, and from what I've been told as well, is that they also gave a lot of content creators who do a lot of GTA related content, they gave them lots and lots of like in-game currency to then purchase these mansions and then be able to experience the new add-on that's been added, and which is really cool. So the thing is, right, is in terms of like money and finance and stuff like that, I don't think Rockstar has an issue. I think the problem that we've got here is that I think there is a lot of pressure on Rockstar employees to get GTA 6 as good as it can be, because it's going to be one of the biggest GTA games that's ever been released. I mean, I've seen rumors, I've seen stuff. I don't know if it's entirely authentic, but I've heard it's going to be one of the biggest maps out there. It's going to be bigger than GTA San Andreas, and GTA San Andreas was fucking massive back in 2005, I think it was, when it was released, something like that. I don't know when GTA San Andreas was released, but it was a massive map. And GTA 6 is going to be probably double that. So the thing is, like, I can imagine that, like I said, when you're working on a game for 12, 13 years or so, and, you just kind of want to get it out, really, because you've been working on it for so long. So I can imagine there's a lot of disgruntled employees that are, pissed off about the crunch times that are expected to be done, potential inadequate pay and the conditions in Rockstar offices, and then obviously a lack of creative voice as well when people come up with issues and whatnot. So, but then it always goes back to the fact that it's becoming such a problem for Rockstar that even our Prime Minister is getting involved in it and going like, hold on a minute, what the fuck's going on here? Because you've just dismissed 31 employees. And bear in mind, like we were talking about before we realised we weren't recording, the games industry in the UK is massive. It's huge. Yeah. Like, I mean, think about Glasgow, for instance. Think about Edinburgh, where Rockstar North is at. Think about London. Plenty of games development companies that are there. Plus, you've got Take-Two, which is the parent company of Rockstar, which is based in London. So, obviously, with the games development in the UK being as big as it is, of course it's going to make some MPs and some political figures in the UK go, well, hold on a minute, what's going on here?
I mean, this goes back to what I was saying before, like when the recording didn't come through. But I was trying to make this point that, like, in terms of various countries across the world, they all have like their unique forms of like exports, like what materials or what tech or whatever they export. And the fact that like Rockstar and I guess Take-Two like has this huge beating heart in Scotland.
Yeah.
It's something which is like a huge cultural export. Like GTA is a huge cultural export. It really puts our country on the map in terms of the video game industry, and it really stands up in the huge timeline of all the great things which have happened in this country when it comes to like video games and that technology. And so when it comes to something as serious, like as serious an allegation as this is a company which is running in Scotland and to some degree, like, you know, London, as it were, and we've got this union which we formed, and like the union is saying that it's being busted and that they're trying to fire like more than 31 people, and then, you know, if you're in a place like Scotland and you're an MP, so you're a member of Parliament and you're very much responsible for like communicating a lot of things back to central government, that including the economy. If you've got something like hugely scandalous, which is hitting one of the biggest companies probably in Scotland in that way, and it's causing all these firings and all these accusations and all this like legal kind of like lawfare, as you call it, like think of all the back and forth that are going on with what they've got to try and prove to each other and the accusations and things like that. And no wonder there's this MP who's in like Edinburgh or wherever it is, and he's going to Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Questions and going, hey, like, we've got this huge union busting situation here. We've got this huge like legal situation. Like, are you looking at this thing? Are you concerned with what's happening? Like, this is a huge like a matter for like media and culture in this country. Are you watching? And Keir Starmer's, I mean, we didn't see his full. We don't know his full remarks. They were probably on like Prime Minister's Questions on BBC Parliament. We haven't watched it back, but I mean, he's from the summary that we've got, he seems to be on the side of the unions, which is interesting and not unsurprising because he's a Labour politician. Not to get too deep into politics,
of course, but like it's interesting though, because it's one of those things where I think now more than ever, I think people have a voice. You know, people have that voice to talk about what they don't like in a company, what they don't like when they're working for said company, whatever it will be. And we all know from games development in general that especially with like AAA companies and big companies in general, that you're going to have issues down the line of people, you know, not being happy. You know, they're under a lot of stress and pressure. And nowadays, if you're working for a AAA company, whatever AAA company it will be, or big games company, fuck it, even some indie companies, there are going to be a lot of development time on one game. I mean, think about Hollow Knight, for instance. Like, that guy released Hollow Knight, right? And then he left for years and then came back with Silksong, and now it's one of the best games ever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. And then you've also got, I mean, Christ, you've got a lot of companies over the years who have, like, fired a lot of their employees just because they had to. And some of these employees have been in companies for decades. And, you know, you've got companies buying out other companies. I mean, one of the biggest devastations of the UK-based company being bought out was Rare Games. Rare Games got bought out by Microsoft, and then they released Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, and then that was a fucking disgusting game. And look how that ended up. And that was a UK-based company as well. So it's one of those things where unions are a good thing, like, because it controls what needs to be controlled and it gets people's voices heard. But the problem is, right, is sometimes those unions, and I'm not saying that this union from former Rockstar employees are doing, but when you've got employees that have a, let's say, hatred or a negative opinion on the company that's hired them, sometimes you may get a bit cynical. You may get a bit, you know, a little bit Tetris and go, wow, this has happened and that's happened, and oh, look at this bullshit, and then you release it, and then what you don't know is, or what either you do know and you don't care, or you just don't know because you don't know. Sometimes what you're leaking or what you're producing in terms of like comments or talking to someone, especially on a Discord or an open forum, is that, you know, what you're actually leaking is against NDA guidelines or against some sort of policy, and then it's going to come back to bite you in the ass because you have broken policies.
I mean, this is, that's really good that you've brought this back to the Discord leak, because what I was going to say was, you know, you've sort of said like a super broad thing about, like, you know, the sort of function of unions and things like that. But in this particular instance, now it says that the union was started in early 2022. Now, that actually adds quite a broad timeline, because how long have people been sort of whinging internally and being upset working
Well,
at
how
Rockstar?
long's this Discord been around for? That's the thing.
That as well, because here's the thing: is like, one thing that unions kind of specialize in is that they're good with legal issues, that they're good with the kind of bureaucracy and administration and representing you and things like that, and helping you understand your rights at work, or helping to change things such as like company policy, like a kind of a legalistic sense of things, to actually represent the workers at that company better. Now, having said that, if something like a Discord grows and grows, you might start off with someone who's highly competent, knows exactly what they want to do. But the larger that a club gets, the more it brings in people who are kind of just ostensibly related, or they're a friend of a friend and things like that. And to similar kind of thing about what you were kind of saying, being quite fair with this like balancing of the union, is like how much of this is actually trying to get like rights or establish like better kind of pay, or how much of it is just people, maybe they've got a particular grievance. Like, what if this, we just don't know, but what if this Discord kind of in reality might have been a place where people were just constantly airing their grievances about the company. Like, you can imagine, you get back from, let's say, you start developing like a particular character at like 8 a.m. You're working all the way through 6 p.m. You've got a message at 5 p.m. from your boss, like whinging or saying, "Oh no, we've got to scrap that part of the project, start again." And then you're like depressed and screwed. You get back at like 9 p.m. at home. You open up Discord because you want to chill and play a video game, and there you've got a bunch of messages in your Discord server saying, "Oh, can't believe, you know, that manager said this about the soundtrack today." And it could have just become, like, it could have genuinely descended into something which was not becoming
if
productive.
you were to put it into a perspective, it's like if you were to have a friend group, right, in real life, and that friend group gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you get friends of a friends, and then those friends bring their partners in, and, you know, whatever, and then you have a house party, and then in that house party people then start airing their issues about certain people of the friend group, and then that's where it starts to get really fucking messy, because then you've got different opinions of different people, you know, you start getting your little cliques in those fucking groups as well. And that's probably what's happening, is that, you know, people are talking about their issues, and then they're going, "Oh yeah, I know this person," and they get invited, and this person gets invited, and then it just all becomes this massive clusterfuck of just people just like airing out issues, some that are probably not even worth mentioning, but they're doing it because they're frustrated, or issues that are actually important. And I think for me, I don't know if it's the old-fashioned sense in me, but like, I've always been down on the fact that if you break NDA rules, you should face consequences for it. Because, I mean, for example, take a look at what happened with the Half-Life 2 leak. Yeah, that wasn't leaked internally. It was taken from a Russian who took the source code and then released it. But just releasing certain things of a piece of software or a game or whatever before it's even released could mean massive consequences for the company throughout. Now, don't get me wrong, like, Rockstar's got I don't know what their stocks are like. I don't know how much money they've got in the treasury or whatever. But you got to think they've got a lot of fucking money. But they're banking a lot of this money on GTA 6. I mean, there's been rumours that GTA 6 is going to be released for $70, $60, something like that, right? There was even mentions of releasing it for $100 because of how much development time was put into it. But then not only that, though, but there's also the fact that they're releasing it for consoles first, and then they're going to think about PC users afterwards. So they've still got a structure going. But you got to think, if people start leaking stuff, then Rockstar's going to look at it and go, this could mean massive consequences for us later on down the road, because the more stuff gets leaked, the more stuff people are going to see, the public's going to see, and potentially a lot of stuff that people will see, which will then make them go, I don't want to play the game. I don't want to buy it.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is the kind of thing where we've got to understand, as you're saying, is that just because the company might be high-flying and it has a lot of money in the bank, let's say hypothetically, that doesn't mean that they can just shoulder like a disastrous leak of the information on the game, because as you said, like those kind of side effects and what that does to the marketing, what that does to like other companies that are relying on this GTA 6 release and things like that. But I think moving away from that is, it's interesting that we seem to have, maybe it's only from the summary, maybe there's something out there that goes deeper, but we've got these two accusations that kind of are talking over each other. So Rockstar is saying, you guys are leaking critical information about the game, and that,
or
and
whatever
that
it is they're leaking about. It might not be GTA 6,
That's true. That's a good point. Whatever it is, it breaks your contract. Essentially, that would be the argument, or it breaks etiquette or whatever. Now then, you've got the union who's just saying, essentially, this is blatant union busting. And what I really want to kind of get a conclusion on, and maybe it's the kind of thing where we could find the information and just briefly like discuss it in the next podcast, I don't know, but I just want to know who's telling the truth here. Like, because if this leak is happening and it's really as bad as, like, bad enough to fire 31 people, if the union is denying that, then you would hope that they've got a strong case, or they're just a union which is not functioning very well. Because I think if there's an accusation of like an NDA being broken, what the union might have to do in response is they might have to analyze the evidence, analyze the nature of the leaks, and they would have to put together a case saying to Rockstar, like, look, this is not a leak, this is not a breaking of the NDA, this is just people ranting on a Discord and them naming certain employees or like naming certain things about the game. That does not make a leak. And then if the two sides can't agree, it has to go legal. And then think of all of the costs and all the expenses. And then that's the kind of thing which is going to, as you say, cause delays. Because if you've got 31 people who have been fired, and you've got 200 people signing a letter demanding the reinstatement of those colleagues, you've got anywhere, but you've definitely lost 30 people, and you could lose many more. And
from
so
what I've seen as well, from summaries that I've seen, is that, a few of these people who did get fired from Rockstar are people who've been in the company for about a decade. Whoa. Which will then coincide with the development time of GTA 6 as well. So it could be stuff from GTA 6. We just don't know. But the thing is, like, this, if it doesn't get squashed soon, this could become fucking massive. And it could potentially mean that GTA 6 might be delayed for another year if they can't get it in order. Because, I want to stay neutral on the fact of, this whole entire thing, because I don't want to take the union side or Rockstar side. But when at the end of the day, like, actions have consequences. No matter what action it is, it will always have a consequence, right? So you're gonna like have consequences no matter what action you take. So it'll be interesting to see when the next year rolls around how we're going to see how Rockstar handles this, or how the union handles this, if not how Keir Starmer handles this. Because holy shit, like, I think if anything, that is the biggest thing at the moment, is that if you've got literally the Prime Minister looking into it, like, do you know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Absolutely, because as we were saying before about kind of like talking about this from the point of view of the local probably the local MP in Edinburgh, whichever part of Edinburgh, then yeah, because Keir Starmer is addressing this, but because we have, I think it's called a Department of like Media, Sports and Culture, I think it's
Yeah.
called, like the British Department of Media, Sports and Culture. That's like one of the kind of offices of central government. Is when you have like, because I know this from working in planning, is like sometimes you'll have like policies for a place that you live in, and some of those policies will just cover very general things like design or like flooding or transport, but then sometimes you get a situation that's so big that like one policy will be given to like a whole like site. So for instance, you might know next to BU there was that like Talbot Woods,
Yeah, oh yeah,
which
yeah,
is just like
yeah,
a wooded
yeah.
area. That had an entire that area of land had a whole policy dedicated just to itself. So from that perspective, I know I'm kind of going a bit round the houses here, but what I'm trying to say is like Rockstar North and this game are such a big deal and such like an economic juggernaut in terms of jobs and money and income and marketing and culture that yes, like it's big enough that there would be like the head of sports media and culture sat at their desk being like, what's all of this about a union? What's all of this about like a delay and things
Yeah.
like that? He might have to come in, give some kind of word, or I don't know the function of the office, but it's overall it's very, it's like a bewildering situation. It's quite nerve wracking.
But here's another thing as well. We don't know what the relationship is like between the employees and the directors and the CEOs or whoever's leading, you know, the actual offices itself in terms of the head honcho. Like, we don't know how the relationship is because you don't particularly hear stories about employee relationships with their leaders until they're way out of the company, if not from a few years' time from when they used to work. I mean, I've seen personally a lot of different stories of how, you know, certain people worked for different companies and how fucking crazy they were. I mean, you think about when we had our guest on the other month, he was talking about how when he was working for someone, he was constantly harassing him. Like, constantly harassing him.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing that could be happening in Rockstar. It could be the same thing that could be happening in Take-Two. Like, we don't know yet. But I think, for the time being, I think the best thing to do is to keep our eyes on it and see how the development goes, because anything could crop up. Like, it could be small, it could be massive. But at the moment, Rockstar is definitely on, like, shaky waters at the moment, because if the Prime Minister's getting involved, if this union's becoming massive, if, you know, like, if the employees are upset and angry and are not happy with how the work conditions are in their office, then anything could happen. Anything and something. Anything and... Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
like,
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like, it's just such
yeah.
a massive, like, bunch of mess. Like, we just don't know a clear answer.
It's a good point. It is a mysterious situation, and I think as you're kind of saying to this, it's like whatever game is going on between the actual directors at Rockstar and the union is interesting, because now the union's been established. It has certain rights. It has a knack of like representing the employees, but on the other hand, that does cause like a huge culture shift in the company, because for decades it will have been developing games without a union, and unions end up costing a significant amount of money and time and things like that for a business. So we're basically watching, and we don't have the particular information. We don't know if the people in the Discord were like being faithful and the accusations are lies. We don't know if it was just a massive cesspit of bitching and leaking information. We don't know. And I think all we can do is we've extracted what we can from this. We've worked out, like, you know, what things are significant, what's important. We've speculated on what could be happening based on our understanding of, like, you know, other parts of the industry that we've been in or positions we've worked in, people we've spoken to. And all we can really do is just like, you know, once we're off the podcast, do a little bit of a deep dive, see if we can get any more information. And we might briefly cover it in the next one, but we just don't know.
But yeah, no, I think it'll be very interesting to see when this next year rolls around, see what developments have arisen from this. but it'll be interesting to see what certain big time players will say about this as well, because I can imagine there will be comments made by potentially other directors of different companies, or different MP elements, or who knows, like it could be it could blow up into a massive fireball, it could just simmer like a fucking pot of water. But at the end of the day, it's a very interesting topic, because
at the end of the day, Joe, it's the gamers who lose. It's the gamers who lose.
It's the nice guys that get the losing streak.
It's the nice guys. You know what, Joe? You know what? Nice gamers finish last.
Exactly. And you know what? I'm sick and tired of it. It's time we made a change.
I'm sick and tired of finishing last. You know what? I'm going to go up to Edinburgh. I'm going to go into Rockstar and beep. That's so stupid. Right, we're definitely being stupid now.
Right.
But you know what? Do you think we could leave it there then?
Yeah, I think we could leave it there. So we just want to say thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. It's been very, very fun to get back into this. I don't know if we will be recording any more before the next year rolls around. We probably will maybe record one. I don't know.
We just don't know, do we?
Don't know.
We've definitely got a couple that could be lined up and posted anyway, but in terms of recording new stuff, we don't know. I mean, I'm looking to take a bit of a Christmas break, but maybe between Christmas and New Year's, something crazy might happen and we might want to jump on. We just don't know.
So we'll see what happens, but in terms of 2026... the Summon Rounds podcast will be alive and active. So we will see how it goes. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening or watching. We appreciate every single one of you, even if it's just one person. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll who knows? Even if it's just you.
Even if it's just you.
You're right, just you.
Thank you
but
very
also,
much.
Yeah, we should also say saying thank you to Foghorn Fairies for producing the theme tune. Just one last thing to say: hit them up on Spotify. Foghorn Fairies.
Links will be
if you like that theme
in the
tune.
description, and if we need to, we'll pin a comment as well. But anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, and take care of yourselves, and have a good Christmas, or holidays, or Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. So
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye.